Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Douglas. I'm currently a first-year master's student at CU Denver studying environmental science with a specialization in water systems. I've been working at the district as a student intern for 10 months and support both the floodplain management and stream management services teams. It's my pleasure to introduce Brandon Cary, one of our own restoration specialists. Among his many responsibilities, Brandon coordinates district beaver management efforts by working closely with our government partners to share data, inform decisions, and support coordinated management actions. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Thanks, Michael. Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to share our approach to managing beaver activity across MHFD's 1,600 square mile service area. Over the next 10 minutes, I'll walk you through the challenges that beaver create for urban infrastructure and the ecological benefits that beavers provide, as well as the collaborative, data-driven framework that we're working on building to balance both. Beavers are remarkable ecosystem engineers. They can reshape entire landscapes and increase biodiversity. In fact, they aren't just nature's engineers, they're contractors too. This makes the work that they do sort of a design-build situation. But when that work happens next to roads, culverts, and stormwater systems, we have a problem. The good news is, with the right tools and data, it's not an either-or situation. The challenges are real and costly. Beaver dams slow water, which can overtop roads, flood trails, and impact infrastructure or personal property. Blocked culverts create upstream ponding that can undermine road embankments, erode bridge abutments, and compromise entire stormwater systems. And one of the biggest frustrations when it comes to this incredibly persistent and busy species is that beavers rebuild within days. If you clear a dam on Monday, it's back by Thursday. Reactive removal alone is a losing strategy across 1,600 square miles. But the same activity that threatens infrastructure creates tremendous ecological value. Beaver-created wetlands expand habitat, raise water tables, and sustain riparian corridors that 80% of regional wildlife depends on. The flood attenuation can be beneficial given the appropriate location. Beaver ponds slow peak flows, spread floodwaters across floodplains, and recharge groundwater. That's natural flood reduction at a fraction of engineered costs. And the water quality benefits that beaver provide align directly with our stream health goals. So the real question when it comes to beaver isn't whether they're good or bad, it's where are they beneficial and where do they create unacceptable risk. The landscape across MHFD's service area varies greatly, from undeveloped open space on the left to pipe systems downtown on the right. We have many different types of infrastructure here in the district. By understanding that each case is different, we can find the best solution for protecting people, property, and our environment. Our data-driven approach answers the question of what's possible. We're building a comprehensive inventory, mapping every beaver dam across the district using field surveys, local government requests, and citizen reports. Then we assess the risk systematically and carefully, prioritizing flood risk, infrastructure proximity, and habitat value to determine where intervention is needed versus where beaver activity can actually be beneficial. Recording, monitoring, and tracking dam status, maintenance actions, and outcomes over time is a continuous improvement loop, not just a one-time assessment. So this map shows internal beaver observation data across the entire MHFD service area. Each beaver icon represents documented sites or an aggregation of sites from field surveys or partner reports. And some data that's been recently shared by Denver Parks and Recreation, not shown here, is very thorough, which will continue to fill in our understanding of how beaver are moving across the district. Beaver are all over the district, which comes as a surprise to many who may never see these nocturnal critters. Living in an urban environment where green space is valued and flooding can have devastating impacts is why a risk assessment framework is critical. And this is a living data set. As our 41 local government partners continue reporting, this picture is going to grow more complete, helping us shift from reactive responses to proactive management. Some of you may remember Mary Powell and Brian Murphy's talk at the symposium 3 years ago about the Beaver Adaptive Management Plan for Denver Parks and Rec and the district. And that plan directly informed the decision matrix that we still use today. It's going to look complicated, but it's fairly simple, and I'm going to explain it so you don't need to read through each step. See what I mean? So this flowchart guides field staff through evaluating beaver problem areas, and it starts with one question. Is the dam causing problems? If not, then monitor for change. Not every dam needs intervention. If yes, we classify into 3 categories: flooding, tree harvesting, or infrastructure damage. Each path leads to tailored responses: pond levelers and culvert protectors for flooding, tree protection like caging or sand painting, and dam notching for harvesting. Finally, a public safety assessment for infrastructure damage. Every path ends, though, with monitor for change. Beaver management is never one and done, and this framework embodies the adaptive approach necessary for working in these living systems. The following photos show pond leveler installations in Denver. And you can see the pipe systems that regulate water levels while allowing beavers to stay on site. They're low maintenance, cost effective, and let us keep the ecological benefits of beaver activity while controlling flood risk. It's one of the ways that we can coexist with nature rather than fight it. So, how does a pond leveler actually work? Basically, you install a pipe, typically PVC, upstream of the dam, extending through or under it to the downstream side. The upstream intake is protected by a cage or fence enclosure so beavers can't plug it. Water flows through the pipe by gravity, keeping the pond at a controlled level. The key insight here is that beavers build dams in response to the sound and feel of running water. Because the pipe intake is submerged and enclosed well upstream, the beavers don't detect the flow, so they don't try to block it. The dam stays in place, the pond stays at a safe elevation, and the beavers continue their ecological work without causing flooding problems. The diameter and elevation of the pipe determine the maximum water level, essentially setting a ceiling for the pond. Larger pipes handle higher flows during storm events, and once installed, they require minimal maintenance, just periodic checks to clear debris from that intake cage. Here is a real-world example of beaver activity causing issues. On the left, you can see a beaver dam spanning the width of the channel. On the right, you can see the impacts to the trail that runs parallel to the stream, which is almost at the same elevation as that stream. And this is exactly the type of site that our decision matrix would flag for intervention. On the next slide here, you can see that beaver are no longer there. But when beaver moved into the area, their work created a public safety problem and threatened critical infrastructure. Ultimately, it's about balance. In some places, the pond depth beavers need, which is typically around 3 feet, just isn't compatible with public safety or infrastructure, and removal becomes the only viable option that we have. None of this works, though, without strong partnerships. Our 41 local government partners report beaver activity, flag culvert blockages, and work with us on case-by-case solutions. Sometimes we advise, sometimes we act directly, depending on the severity of the situation. And on the state side, CPW's 2026 Beaver Strategy provides the policy framework, and MHFD helped shape it as an urban agency with a very unique perspective. We're sharing data to build a robust statewide data set. The importance is we've moved from fragmented one-off responses to coordinated district-wide strategy. Four key lessons that we've learned is that non-lethal tools work, and pond levelers and culvert fencing keep culverts clear while allowing beavers to stay on site. These have been proven effective across Colorado and the US, and there are some fantastic resources out there for anyone looking to build one. Data before action. Our inventory distinguishes high-risk sites from beneficial ones, avoiding unnecessary interventions. Early coordination with partners leads to faster, cheaper solutions. And adaptive management is essential because beaver behavior is dynamic. The takeaway here is that smart management means knowing where beavers help and where they create risk. District-wide data in a science-based framework is the foundation for every decision that we make. Collaboration turns fragmented responses into strategy. Non-lethal tools deliver lasting results at lower costs than reactive removal. And Colorado Parks and Wildlife's 2026 strategy gives us a unified statewide framework which aligns with our policy. With that, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions, either at our speaker table during the break or through the Q&A feature in the app. Thanks for being here today, and I hope that this talk has given you all something to chew on.